Hello, we are going to be doing a review today of linear models, and we're going to go through multiple representations. This is an example of a blank form. In some of the representations, you'll be given a description, and then you'll have to write the equation, make the table, and do the graph. Other ones will give you the equation, and you'd have to be able to do the table and the graph and write a description. Or we may give you a table, and you have to do the other three, or you'll be given a graph and you'll have to pull the data off of it to make the table, the equation, and the description. So it's going through all the four different types of multiple representations of a scenario, description, equation, table, and graph. And here's our very first example. This is a description. It says, a Valero at Hausman and Babcock is selling premium gas for $3.50 per gallon. Okay, so if I look at that and try to remember, say, how to write an equation or just pull out important information, I notice I've got one of my rate words, per. Remember, per, each, and every are our rate words. So if you look to the number to the left, then that number is the rate. And if you look to the right, this is going to be what our x values represent. And if you want to check that, if you look at the table, it's always x first and y second. And I labeled that our x values was the gallons up in the description. And if you look at the table, it says gallons of gas, that's in the x column. So that does match. Now, when we try to write an equation based upon something like that, we usually do it in the format of y equals mx plus b, and m is our rate. B is our starting value. So for this one, if I wrote it y equals, I've already identified that my rate is 3.50. So I'm going to put 3.50, and then it's matched up with the x. You always put the rate with the letter. And then I would do the plus b, and there is no starting value. So you could put a plus 0, or technically you don't have to do that. You can just write it like this. But that's our basic equation. Okay, now if I try to fill out the table, well, if I don't have a starting value, remember this is the starting value, and if I go ahead and put it back up here, if that right there is my starting value, then I would start with a 0. And I could say it's going to increase by 350, but that's if this table went up by ones on the x side. If it went like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I could go up by 350 every time. So I could do 350, and then I could increase by 350 again, that would be 7. And then I could increase by 350 again, that would be 1050. So the rate does increase by 350 every time. But this table didn't do that because you notice on the x side, it didn't go up by ones. They skipped numbers. They started with the 0, but then they went up 5, 10, 15, 20. So instead of working the table like this, which you can do that, but you can only do it like this with a repeat like I did if it goes up by ones. I'm going to have to use the equation. So I'm going to just write over here on the graph for a minute, and I'll erase it later. So if I know that y equals 3.50x, and remember x is the gallons, okay, then over here when it says that I have 5 gallons, I'm going to put a 5 in the place of the x. So I'm going to take out that x, and I'm going to put a 5 there. And then I'm just going to work this side of it, and I'm going to do 350 times 5. And that ends up being 1750. So that's what I'm going to put here. So for 5 gallons of gas, it's going to cost 1750. And then I could do the same thing for the next one. Instead of a 5 here, the next number for the gallons of gas is a 10, so I would put a 10 there, and then I would multiply here, and 350 times 10 is 35, which I could write 35, or I could do 35 with the double zeros for $35. And then I can do it again. I can take the 10 out, and I can notice that my X number is now going to be 15, so I'm going to put a 15 in there, and I'm going to do 350 times 15. We're just using substitution. 52, 50. And then I can do it again for 20. Which is 70. And then I can do it again for 25. Which is going to be $87.50. So that helps me to fill out my table. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to fill out my graph. Now when I fill out my graph, I'm going to notice that the across axis, which I'm going to highlight in blue, I'm going to say this is my x-axis. Okay, my x-axis is going to be the gallons of gas. I'm just going to put gallons. Okay, my y-axis, which I'm going to do here, this is going to be the cost. This is going to be the dollars. Now I can label them anything I want. I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wouldn't get very much on there, but since my x-axis went up by 5s, I'm going to go ahead and label it by 5. So I'm going to do 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, like that. Okay, now my y-axis went up by, if you look at it, it actually went up by 17.5 every time because that's what it was increasing by. And I could do that as well, or I could make it go up by 5, 10, 15, 20. I wouldn't get all the numbers in, or I could make it go up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 if I wanted to. Normally we don't see it going up by exactly like a 17.5, so I'm just going to make mine go up by tens. That way I can get close to that 87.50 there. So I'm going to do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Okay, so when I put the points on there, the first one is at 0, 0, so that's here. The second one is at 5 and 1750. Well, I don't perfectly have 1750 on here. I know it's between the 10 and the 20, and it's closer to the 20, so I'm going to put it right there. The second one is at 1035, so that's exactly halfway between the 30 and the 40, so that's a little bit easier to do. The 15 is at 5250, so it's between the 50 and the 60, but it's closer to the 50, so that looks about right. Okay, and then the 20 is at 70, so that's perfectly on there. And then the 25 is at 8750, which would be between the 80 and the 90, but closer to the 90. And you can see they are nicely lining up because this is linear and they would make a line, even if you kind of have to eyeball it. So there's the graph of that. So that takes you through all 4 representations: scenario, equation, table, and graph.